Story 1. Many websites were not only non-standard, but they were meant to be explored. Going on the internet used to feel like taking a joyride in a town you had never been to before, one that had a rich history and many new things to discover. There was a sense of discovery, with the possibility that around the next corner could be something that would blow your mind and change the way you think. Many people were excited to share content and put a lot of love into sharing it. Search engines used to be much better. It is surprising how much they have declined. This is not only due to search engine optimization and people trying to sell things, but also because search engines often ignore what you are asking, even if you use precise search techniques or tools. I have tried them all, and I do not enjoy using any search engine today like I did from around 1998 to 2010. Story 2. You do not just buy a game, you also have to fight to have it run. People like to complain about Microsoft Windows these days, but have no idea. During Microsoft Windows 95 times, people used to know their product key by memory because you had to reinstall it many times. Let us not talk about disk operating system and Microsoft Windows 3.1 and the challenge of editing the configuration system file, hunting the right interrupt request so your audio card would work properly. Story 3. People are missing out on the sheer volume of small web pages available. Nowadays, most people visit about 10 sites, which can be categorized as follows: social media, Instagram, TikTok, and others; hobby sites, Pinterest, Etsy, and similar platforms; video sites, YouTube, Netflix, Twitch; shopping sites, Amazon, eBay, Etsy. I used to have about 200 websites bookmarked to keep track of. Most of those are now gone. I follow a few webcomics, but the days of the wild internet, where you could find something niche that someone had put time and effort into creating for their unique hobby, are over. Story 4. How easy it was to be an internet pirate and how easy it was for your personal computer to catch them all with viruses. Maybe people should do something with their lives instead of being part of an oversaturated influencer famous internet pool. Story 5. Waiting for a picture to download one line at a time, then having to close the window just as things got interesting when my girlfriend walked into the room. Story 6. The wood-paneled computer room had a desk that barely held the bulky monitor and the computer underneath it. I would sit in the chair and turn it on with my toe. Story 7. Flash games. Albino Black Sheep website. Homestar Runner. Creating your own MySpace page with songs and graphics. Age, sex, location chats on AOL Instant Messenger. The first three-dimensional computer games and how realistic the graphics were. Story 8. Connecting with friends on MySpace, spending a ridiculous amount of time on how it looks and what songs play, etc. Story 9. Waiting for my father to finish using the computer so I can play Space Cadet pinball and draw random shapes on the old Microsoft Paint. Story 10. The internet was pretty wild. No one had a clue and everyone was trying to figure it out. It showed in really cool, creative, and sometimes creepy ways. You never knew where you would end up, which sites you would discover, or which memories would be branded upon you, doomed to never be forgotten. The mystery aspect was especially big in gaming. It was hard to tell if a secret shared was true or not. People were more careful in choosing trustworthy information than today. Today, many people blindly trust a source without a second thought. This could be a side effect of today's larger user base. The pioneers knew they were trying something new and were cautious, while the general public now takes it for granted and is therefore more careless. It was also less toxic. As previously stated, everyone was kind of clueless, and there was a mentality of let's combine everyone's expertise and figure something out. A good example is classic World of Warcraft. No stress, just enjoying the adventure. You didn't even need to be like-minded, as you were generally accepted as long as you were nice and respectful. One thing not spoken of enough today: the internet and gaming were good escapes from reality if you needed a break. You could also easily disconnect from the online world. Today, it is very much intertwined. Story 11. Google and how much of a game changer it was when it was new. Ask Jeeves before modern search engines. Story 12. Being able to customize your social media profiles thoroughly, or even learning hypertext markup language to add features to them. Story 13. The wild west of easy torrenting without any consequences. I was into obscure movies, and you could easily access anything. Story 14. Not being visually overwhelmed with a constant barrage of advertisements. I realize advertisement blockers exist and use them myself, but there were websites that did not have them at all. There were no guerrilla marketing campaigns hiding advertisements as news stories. You did not have bots pushing advertisements and celebrity fluff pieces as news. Story 15. Actually connecting with people online. You would join a chat room and talk with people and have long conversations, serious or silly. There was genuine connection. We were interested in learning about each other because it was all new and exciting. I made friends on America Online in the 1990s that I am still friends with, some still only online, some in person. Going online was its own thing back in the day. Now we are always connected, good or bad. We are so used to the feeling of talking to someone anywhere in the world that a lot of former chats are throwaway comments on social media with a like instead of actual responses unless it is arguing. Everything feels instant and temporary. It feels like most people are always moving on to the next post. Story 16. The joy of trying to find local dial-up numbers. Waiting for your modem to connect, only to drop the connection 3/4 of the way through. Downloading albums over dial-up. So you set it to go while you are asleep, only to wake up and find that it stalled 3 songs in, an hour after you went to bed. Story 17. Looking up something in the Encyclopedia Britannica or spending hours debating what the mumbled song lyrics might be. Story 18. ICQ notifies you with an alert when you receive an instant message. Ring and stumble upon direct you to a random website you will likely find interesting. Browser wars. So many things. Story 19. Flash animation sometimes included hidden buttons as funny Easter eggs, which are lost when converted to video format. Story 20. Ding ding ding. Beep brrrr. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZz Story 21. You used to be able to look up your entire family tree for free before companies hid the information behind paywalls. Story 22. Old YouTube was great before all the nonsense. Now they force advertisements down your throat, even on live streams. Story 23. The internet now is so locked down and managed. You really could find anything pretty easily. In 2001, downloading individual Blink 182 songs from LimeWire while watching videos of snipers decapitating Taliban on Newgrounds. It was easy to download viruses from LimeWire. People searched everything on Google. There were a lot of creeps and predators in chat rooms, and everything was more or less anonymous and unregulated. We were taught safe internet use because it was not safe. The racism and other forms of discrimination everywhere make modern sections look tame. Online multiplayer games, webcam chats, MySpace, and Napster all felt so revolutionary. We were living in the future. Story 24. A complete video game when purchased. No patches to download, no downloadable content. Just pay money and receive a game that works. Story 25. Putting tape over the small hole on your America Online installation disk so you could reformat it and use it for something else. Story 26. Waiting 20 minutes to see the eyebrows loading on a swimsuit model. Then 20 minutes later, her shoulders. Story 27. Rushing home to play Red Alert over the internet with my best friend. Our parents had to get a second phone line because of us. Then we would call each other and talk while we played. Story 28. Just rolling the dice and meeting up with someone you met on AOL Instant Messenger without knowing what they really looked like. Story 29. How simple personal pages and blogs were. Not trying to sell anything to anyone, just sharing stuff for fun. And do not forget the little site counter where you could see how many people visited the page. Story 30. MSN Messenger days. I actually dumped my first ex through Messenger because his mom was driving me mad. She was all holy and stuff. Goes to church every Sunday without fail. Attends every Christian seminar and conference out there. One day she asked me out to Burger King, and I thought it would just be a casual get-to-know-me chat. But no. She brought along her niece or some relative, and they both started going off about how I needed to be a godly woman for her son. She even pulled out Bible verses, told me not to text him every day, not to speak on the phone every day, and that I had to give him space and all that. Like, ma'am, I was only 19. Chill. I guess one day everyone lets loose eventually. A couple of years later, he ditched the whole holiness act, started dating around, got tattoos, and stopped serving in church. I'm not saying Christians can't get tattoos, but based on his mom's idea of being white as snow and clean as an empty slate, that probably wasn't the vision. Oh, he got married recently. Good luck to the wife. Anyway, I blocked him right after I dumped him at that time. Over the years, he kept trying to add me on Facebook, but I ignored him all the way through until recently I finally accepted. And guess what? A few weeks after I accepted his friend request, he deleted me. The audacity. Forget you, Brian. Story 31. Forums on specific subjects where topics are properly arranged and archived, allowing you to participate in or read detailed discussions on those subjects. People often knew each other, either those frequenting particular sections or if the forum was fairly niche as a whole. Story 32. Hey everyone, check this out. I downloaded it last night. It's called The Anarchist Cookbook. We were 9. Story 33. Beheading videos on Facebook. Downloading music on LimeWire. Downloading pirated movies on LimeWire only for them to be pornographic content. Destroying the computer with viruses from LimeWire. Story 34. This is for the best, honestly, easily accessible graphic content. We used to send each other the most disturbing videos. Now it's just unfunny memes and mental decay, which is better than extremely violent content for sure. Story 35. The thrill of having someone talk to you via Messenger is now diminished. With text messages, Facebook messages, and everything else, it has become more of a burden than something to be excited about. Story 36. A picture loading pixel by pixel, line by line. Spending days downloading a movie you really wanted to see, only to find out it is either inappropriate content or the wrong movie. Getting removed from your best friend's top 8. Story 37. The amount of time it took a 56 kilobit per second connection to open a photo was like Christmas when it finally loaded. Story 38. Customizing your MySpace profile. The kids these days are so limited in terms of self-expression online. Story 39. The dial-up modem could wake the entire house. Sneaking downstairs and using the internet at night was never an option. I even put a pillow over the modem, and it still sounded like an alarm. Of course, my dad would come downstairs and tell me to go to bed. Kids could never sneak onto the internet. The ugliness of a red and green website. The early websites were unattractive. People used bold colors to try to attract attention. Green backgrounds with red lettering were common. Story 40. Disconnecting. When you are done, you hang up and go do something else. Now, my child and I get off our computers and pick up phones or online console games. We do other activities, but we are never truly disconnected. Story 41. Accepting advertising banners for free dial-up internet. Net zero and blue light. Getting excited for the Free America online hours like it was Columbia House album stamps. Looking at adult content involved waiting for still images to load. Playboy could print an entire issue faster than your image loaded. How advanced and current all that South Park Comedy Central content felt. Going to a college campus just to use their internet in the computer lab. Connecting to the internet on a Windows 3.1 computer. Getting bulletin board system magazines from the newsstand and thinking you were cutting edge. Also not knowing what to do with the information in bulletin board system magazines. Story 42. 1990s. Having to stop what you were doing online so someone can make a phone call on the landline. Alternatively, picking up the phone and a sibling getting mad. Typing in a website and then going to make a grilled cheese while it loads. 2000s MySpace, torrents, RuneScape. I know these still exist but are not really so popular. Story 43. Dial-up internet, real forums and chat rooms, Homestar Runner, and Quake or Unreal Tournament. No internet if someone was on the phone. Story 44. The internet was a room in your house. You would log in and use the computer, Then you would log out and the internet would be gone. It did not follow us everywhere we went. Story 45. The internet used to be focused on interest groups. Now the entire internet is focused on advertising delivery. And this does not just mean trying to get you to buy a washing machine or a certain toy. It means advertising for products, politics, ideologies, propaganda, and anything someone deems worthy of advertising dollars. The most effective way to deliver advertising is to control your experience so the advertising blends in with everything else. The internet today is a personalized experience intended to blend in as many advertisements as possible without making you log off and go outside. The end goal is guiding your behavior in the real world, in the form of buying products, voting a certain way, or demonizing a certain group of people. The internet is a dystopia of fake realities molding behavior. Story 46. Crossing the street to Hollywood Video because Blockbuster was out of the Shawshank Redemption. I did not want to bike all the way to the warehouse. Story 47. Meeting other kids in the local chat rooms from your high school whom you don't share classes with. I got 2 dates this way, and being an extreme introvert, it really helped. Online dating was easy back then until America Online started to fizzle away due to the incoming social platforms like MySpace. Story 48. 1. Having to go online in the middle of the night because you only have one phone line and cannot tie it up during the day. Setting up a download, starting the download, then going to watch television, go out, eat a meal, and maybe when you come back it will be done and hopefully error-free. Story 49. How much awe and respect people, especially older people, would give you for being computer savvy. In the 1990s, there were many people who had never used a computer, let alone the internet. If you could demonstrate even moderate competence, it was seen as a legitimate, in-demand skill. Story 50. The joys and sorrows of using Napster and LimeWire. Estimated time of arrival, and also whereas. You all know who you are. Story 51. The chat rooms. Every provider had their own version. America Online, Microsoft Network, Yahoo, and of course ICQ brought them all together. Nothing was more satisfying when you were browsing the web than to hear the fake knocking and receive a message that someone you knew had entered the chat. It was awesome. Story 52. Growth through the discomfort of sitting and reflecting. Silence, complete aloneness. No supercomputer at their fingertips allowing instantaneous access to an echo chamber of justification. Story 53. The absolute freedom. The complete anonymity. Zero political correctness. Just raw, unfiltered reality. Story 54. Waiting 10 minutes for a page to load, then getting disconnected because someone had to make a phone call without asking if anyone was online. Story 55. The beginning of YouTube and how strange it was. There are not just a large number of GIFs and memes created from what we saw and made, but a lot of it has roots that came before that moment. Trying to explain that to our children is challenging. My brother and I had this conversation just a couple of weeks ago. So much came from that time frame that our societal and social references will likely be lost after us. There is plenty that I missed out on from my parents, but with the internet, we doubled the things that became integral parts of our humor. I can't reference Charlie the Unicorn to anyone but a millennial. Also, Homestar Runner. All I got was this little bit of honey. Story 56. The internet in the 1990s was very disorganized. Sometimes you had to go 10 pages into the search results to find something. It really made the internet feel like a place to be explored. I missed the sense of grand exploration. Story 57. For a while around 2010, the Huffington Post comment section was actually excellent and the starting point for the left-right comment wars. I am convinced they lost a significant amount of revenue when they ruined it. Story 58. The forum-based role-playing games included some that were elaborate and had web pages where you could interact to buy items or complete missions. Story 59. Welcome to America Online. Popping up every time I open the personal computer for some reason. Also discovering sites like Miniclip. Story 60. The internet was actually pretty cool before everything was monetized. Compact Disc Now, Yahoo, Ask Jeeves, AltaVista, Gopher, ICQ. Social media had not been developed yet, despite the efforts of Prodigy and America Online. Information was everywhere, and the internet was a valuable resource. It was a good time to be alive, especially before September 11th changed the world. My back hurts. Story 61. The sheer variety. Yes, the internet is bigger than ever, but children are confined to a controlled environment managed by a few large corporations. In the past, I could browse forums, play games on Miniclip, StickPage, Newgrounds, and discover a wide range of content. Now, it is an advertisement-filled corporate environment where Google owns 80% of the market. Story 62. The feeling when the internet was available for the first time outside the computer room because of this access point and this Wi-Fi card. Story 63. The freedom of not having a phone with you and of no one expecting to hear from you for hours at a time. Story 64. Using the toilet. Nowadays, most of us just play on our phones, read social media, watch a YouTube video, or something similar. In the past, we had books and the back of the air freshener bottle to read while we used the toilet. If you were lucky or even thought about it, you brought your handheld gaming device with you. Story 65. Getting so bored you put your hair in 1,000 braids, then sleep on it and find out you look like a badass lion. Not that they cannot. I just do not think they will. Story 66. In video games, progression has moved from passwords to memory cards to internal hard drives to cloud saves, and finally to instant resume. Story 67. Unplugging the house phone to connect to the internet and hoping your parents do not call while they are away. Story 68. I miss being able to navigate your own way through the internet. You would find the most random stuff because it was all just floating around out there, with little to no agenda for your attention, advertisements, or money. Nowadays, everything is fed to you through an algorithm, so there are whole sections of the internet you will never see because an inanimate thing decides you do not want to. Story 69. The internet relay chat. You will have chat rooms, but nothing like the internet relay chat. The bulletin board system scene, the online world before the internet of the 1970s and 1980s, also brought with it people being local. You would call up a dozen or so bulletin board systems, think of them as their own Reddit, except generally only one person could use it at a time. There were software downloads, some text-based online games, and sometimes the system operator, the person who ran the bulletin board system, would join the chat. Bulletin board systems would have parties, picnics, and general get-togethers. So you would meet all those people you were talking to online. I still have a dozen or so friends that I originally met in the bulletin board system scene. And of course, sex and romance happened. I think a disservice was done when we stopped enforcing a time per day or time per session limit like we had in the bulletin board system days. Story 70. Stares into the distance. The collective trauma of the early internet. Things were seen that should not have been. Story 71. Waiting for my images to load while taking a break, and my grandmother knocking on the door because she needs to make a call. And of course, let's not forget about Newgrounds. Story 72. The hopelessness of the game you bought not working from the start and knowing it probably never will. Asking Jeeves and actually finding information on a fix, then having to download the files to actually fix it was an astronomical endeavor. In fact, it also starts with the struggle to even get to Jeeves because you could never remember how to spell his name, then fidgeting with the slider on a floppy disk while you think. Having to clean the hair out of your trackball mouse. Rationing the minutes left on the America Online disk you got in the mail. Being one of the few people in school who knew how Minesweeper worked. Surprise adult content pop-up windows just as your parents walk in on you legitimately doing innocent things. Seeing the amount of bookmark and plug-in buttons on your grandparents' America Online. The fear of the year 2000 problem. The need to warm up your computer before use. Story 73. Stickdeath.com. America Online Instant Messenger. I saw someone else mention Newgrounds. Honestly, the thing that sticks out the most is the don't pick up the phone. I'm going to use the internet 56 kilobits per second household staple. Story 74. Being empowered and liberated instead of mined and enslaved by the internet. Making real friends and feeling a sense of community via open platforms. Being genuinely engaged instead of being pushed for engagement over nothing because it increases the number of advertisements you will see, products you will buy, data you contribute, and the valuation of the company that owns the platform. Story 75. Go earlier. In the 1980s, there were no advertisements and spam was banned. Advertising would get an entire site removed from the internet, so they were deeply invested in keeping things pristine. It was a golden age. Now, if you want that, you have to find a way onto internet too, where they have the same model again. Story 76. The many creative things that you could do with Adobe Flash Player. I miss that. I miss silly songs like I Want a Fat Babe, The Stickman, The Impossible Quiz, and more. My friend back in high school confessed to his crush using interactive Flash media. They are now raising 2 kids. I miss that creativity. Story 77. Free modem internet with Juno. It was dial-up but showed ads while using it. I discovered you could open it, let it connect to the internet, then press Ctrl-Alt-Delete and end the task while it was connecting. This closed every part of the program except the internet connection. You would stay connected for free with no ads running. I never heard of anyone else doing this, so I felt like zero cool in hackers at the time. Story 78. The perfect quote at the end of your America Online profile. It's all we had to show personality. Oh, and the perverts were there from the very beginning. Story 79. I miss chat rooms and America Online Instant Messenger. It was so much fun meeting people from around the world. Also, my away messages on Instant Messenger were pretty epic. Story 80. Not swimming through a terrible river of pop-ups, cookie acceptances, location requests, and embedded video advertisements was quite refreshing. Story 81. The internet was the Wild West back then. Many sites were not monitored or advertiser-friendly. You could come across a site like Consumption Junction, which had everything from hilarious to gross to horrific. Story 82. A whole generation of computer programmers got their start learning hypertext markup language and PHP through GeoCities pages, custom Neopets pages, custom MySpace profiles, and modifying internet forums. The web was much more customizable and free back then. Story 83. ICQ, especially the alert, was remarkable. Being able to talk to anyone anywhere on the planet was absolutely amazing. Story 84. Before the internet, you connected directly to other people's computers using bulletin board systems. I had friends who hosted games and other content themselves. Also, waiting 20 minutes for a single low-resolution JPEG. Story 85. Trolling strange people in chat rooms. Waiting 5 minutes for a single Pamela Anderson picture to download. 18 glorious months of Napster on a college T1 line resulting in hundreds of burned CDs I still have. Teachers telling you that the internet is not a valid source for research papers. Story 86. Just how amateurish it all was once you escaped the sandboxes. Fortune 500 corporations were barely on the internet in any meaningful way until the early 2000s. Prior to that, it was all just hobbyists. If you searched Hotbot, Dogpile, Ask Jeeves, long before Google existed, for Corvettes, the top result would not be Chevy.com. It would be something like Carl's Corvettes Corner, or more specifically angelfire.com/cars/Carls_Corvettes. It would be some guy who was into both Corvettes and computers enough to teach himself enough HTML to create a website. A small handful of corporations completely dominate today's internet, but it was not like that before 2000. Since there were no real major players, it felt like you were constantly finding something new. Story 87. I would say Adobe Flash. Newgrounds was a novel website at that time. It appeared much more advanced compared to most websites. Story 88. Joe Cartoons. Rotten.com. The frustrating amusement of being tricked with the Never Gonna Give You Up song for the first time. The horror of Blue Waffle. Story 89. Had first contact with the internet in 1994. It was an amazing place for an 11-year-old. Children now have smartphones almost from infancy. Story 90. Every page was unique. You could go from one rainbow blog to another that was gothic. Everyone had a unique cursor on their website. Music sometimes started playing immediately. Advertisements were relegated to the sidebars with the occasional pop-up as you entered the early 2000s. Story 91. Patience. Everything these days is so fast, no time to waste. Back in the early to late 90s, you had to have patience. Websites took their time to display. especially those certain ones that seemed to take even longer because it was the middle of the night and you were trying to rush before someone woke up. Download speeds, games in general, you had to have patience. Story 92. Not having easily accessible ways to find information like Dungeons and Dragons news was challenging. I was fortunate enough to find an advertisement in Dragon magazine about the switch to the third edition of Dungeons and Dragons back in the day. Today, I can quickly find new information by using YouTube, Reddit, or the official Dungeons and Dragons website. Also, it was fun having to look up directions on MapQuest to know where to turn during a trip. People would print out several pages of directions and have the navigator tell them which exit to take. Story 93. The free internet services like NetZero and AltaVista made me, a poor college student, very happy. Story 94. Bulletin board systems. Chat rooms and forums where you knew every post was made by a person at the other end and not some bot. Downloading MP3 files took hours. Sometimes you only found out that the file was a dud after the download was complete. Story 95. Signing on to Microsoft Comic Chat. Essentially internet relay chat run by Microsoft, and getting direct message flooded by overt pedophiles. Building a website on GeoCities with marquee text, rotating GIFs, and with leaf backgrounds. Chatting with friends on ICQ, MSN Messenger, and others. Using Trojans such as Sub7 and NetBus to open friends' CD-ROM drives for laughs. Playing Flash games or building things with Flash. Playing early multiplayer games like Quake World Team Fortress, Quake 2 and 3, Counter-Strike alphas and betas. Browsing endless random websites on whatever topic you could imagine via organic search results, most of it original independently produced content, rather than regurgitated social media and ad-littered commercially produced content most people doom scroll now. Pictures would take forever to load. Video only really became viable, at least here in Australia, in the late 1990s to early 2000s. Even then, I remember South Park episodes being 30 to 50 megabyte files with about 40 by 40 resolution. Perhaps an exaggeration, but it was bad. Learning all sorts of technical things on internet relay chat channels full of nerds, direct connect file transfers, egg drops, and more. The advent of piracy for the masses, such as Napster, LimeWire, and Kazaa Lite, before torrents and streaming became widespread. Story 96. The first difficulty was properly configuring the settings to connect. Took me a while to get the hang of it. Then there were the dial-up sounds, which were interesting. If someone was using the internet, you couldn't use the phone. The worst part was the price. We had to pay per minute. Using the internet too much meant a high bill. Story 97. Insanely slow loading of web pages. Modem handshaking. Mom, I am on the internet. Do not pick up the phone. Story 98. The internet was not monetized. People just posted their silly videos and art for the sake of sharing and enjoying them. We had no idea what we had back then. Story 99. Honestly, not being on the internet all day. Going outside and playing with the neighbor kids. Then coming home when it is dark to play pinball or spider solitaire. Story 100. Playing Flash games on the library computers instead of searching for books when the librarians and teachers were not looking. Good times. Story 101. Napster bad, money good. They are strong. So many great Flash cartoons that have just disappeared into memories. Downloading adult content at 2,800 baud. You could get it to show scrambled all at once and get better, or you would go top down so you could tell if it would be worth it or not. Multi-user dungeons, multi-user shared hallucinations, basically playing text-based Zork with other users. There was one with some graphics in the 2000s called Urban Dead, if I recall correctly. When you died, you became a zombie. If you typed words, they would turn into gibberish. They worked out Bananarama Gangbang to mean, attack the door now. Penny Arcade did some comics about it, I think. It was a lot of fun. Story 102. A variety of search engines, almost none of which had built-in advertisements. An abundance of active and engaging forums and discussion thread sites. Being in someone's top 8 on MySpace. Story 103. Napster. Even on dial-up, being able to download a few MP3 files and burn them to a CD was amazing. You would queue up a few dozen songs you wanted, go to bed, then wake up to all new music. I still have binders full of burned CDs of MP3 files from that era. For a while, it was amazing. Story 104. Spending half an hour downloading a song from Napster, only to find out someone named it a completely different song than the one you wanted to download. Story 105. The surprise phone bill at the end of the month was because there were no local dial-up phone numbers for America online. Sorry, Mom. Story niçinde just. Bırak krapş pasır pasır. Skrikrrkrrr bip 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 bip. Chhhhhhkkkkk ding 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 eep. Rrrrzzzzzzzzkkkkakri. Then getting shouted at because you are blocking the phone line. Story 107. Privacy, secrecy, your own corner of the internet, the rebellious nature of what the internet was back then. I do not know, it was fun. Now it is expected, put on blast, very social. Story 108. The experience of chat rooms. Talking to complete strangers about any kind of topic was a unique experience at the time. I know we are all doing this now, but it was live, raw, and just bizarre. Downloading music and likely getting 80% viruses. Not exactly a good experience, but definitely shaped how we interact with the internet today. Trust no one and assume the worst from any deal or transaction made online. The days of actually surfing the web, finding new websites and sharing the knowledge with your friends. It was like an ongoing treasure hunt, constantly finding unique little gems. Experiencing the internet before it became one massive clickbait cash grab. Back when the majority of it was just fun, knowledge, and entertainment. Back then, if it had ads, you just knew it was likely a shady site and your information was not safe, so you stayed away. Story 109. Yahoo Kids, also known as Yahooligans. That site was legendary. It was the place to watch clips, play games, and find information on the latest television shows and movies. Every major kids franchise and film of the 2000s was featured there, including SpongeBob, Shrek, and Mr. Bean. It was very fun. You did not have to visit different websites to play games and watch clips from your favorite shows. They were all there. I remember watching a clip from the fired or faux episode of SpongeBob before it aired in 2007. Good times. A little part of me died inside when it shut down in 2013. Even though I became a teenager that year, it was sad to see it go. But I will never forget what my mom said. At least you got to experience something cool that future generations will not. That has always stuck with me and taught me to be grateful for all the good things that have happened in my life. Yahoo Kids, I miss you. Story 110. The internet was not a physical location. It existed on the computer, and if you were not sitting at the computer, you were not connected. If someone needed to use the phone, you had to log off. It was a different way to live. Story 111. AOL chat rooms, instant messaging, and others. Yes, we can still do all those things and more with today's technology, but it was different. Story 112. The ultimate session that is trying to download an entire adult video either in sections of cut-up file parts or buffering every minute or two. Story 113. Chat rooms, websites with hidden areas, clues to search for, and basic entry-level websites created by large companies just to establish their presence on the internet. Story 114. Accessing the internet over a dial-up modem. Yes, you can always get a pair of modems and be your own dial-up internet service provider or otherwise throttle yourself to 9,600 baud now. But it is not the same. The whole internet was designed around the throughput limitations of a dial-up modem. Story 115. The absolute amazement of being able to type into a computer and have someone on the other side of the world write something back. I still remember how mind-blowing that moment was. Story 116. PC games came in boxes the size of Harry Potter books, taking up significant shelf space. Paying $2.95 an hour to be online was common. At that time, the federal minimum wage was $4.75. Imagine working for an hour and spending more than half of that money just to browse TikTok for 1 hour. Kids would be broke today. Story 117. How long would it take to download one song on dial-up? 1 hour if you got lucky and didn't lose connection. It would take nearly all night to create a burned compact disc. Fun times. Story 118. Massive live chat rooms full of people typing age, sex, location while waiting for a small photograph to slowly download. Story 119. A large number of websites that were dedicated to children have declined. The websites that do manage to survive are either dominated by scalpers or are completely inactive. Story 120. Paying for every minute you are online. Waiting 5 minutes or more for a web page to load. Experiencing the musical tones of a telephone modem and, finally, and perhaps most importantly, no search engines. Story 121. The magic of the internet was something new and special. Everyone behind the screen seemed mysterious in a positive way. The movie You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks captured that environment well. Story 122. Finding an amazingly hilarious video that you will quote for the rest of your life. Nowadays, memes have a very short shelf life. Videos from the past can still be quoted today. Story 123. Taking more than 10 minutes to download one inappropriate picture on a 56 kilobits per second modem and watching it render line by line, waiting until it displayed clearly. Story 124. The almost complete lack of misinformation. Sure, there was incorrect information available, but there was not this mass of falsehoods trying to actively deceive you. Story 125. A US Robotics 14.4 baud modem. The Cadillac of modems for me back in the day. My 14 dot had to use the lingo to my very first modem, a Superfax 2800 baud. It took over 12 hours to download the Paula Abdul picture going around the old bulletin board system days before it was even called the Internet or anything World Wide Web. Dialing a new number for each site. Sliding the tab over to copy on a blank floppy disk. Load *8:1. Typing run to get a file to work. Story 126. Save points. No respawning on the spot. You have to earn your saves. This is not internet-specific but on point. Installing games, you did not just buy a game, you bought a challenge, a test, an exam. You had to know how to edit your disk operating system, configuration, batch files, text files, code, move code, download new drivers or sound files, correct three-dimensional card update files, Java, edit file paths, even change game code, then install and update the game, then play it. It sounds horrendous, but it was glorious. Story 127. Arguing with your brothers and sisters about whose turn it was to change the channel because our television did not have a remote control. Story 128. LimeWire and dial-up internet were challenging, but be grateful you did not experience those. LimeWire infected your PC with more viruses than a risky encounter, and dial-up internet was very slow and irritating. Story 129. Watching a photo slowly download on dial-up and backing out if it was not good even before it finished. Story 130. You know that feeling when you have a 12-hour three-dimensional print running overnight? You cannot wait to see the finished product in the morning, but you have to wait. Everything has to go perfectly or the whole effort is lost. That is what downloading JPEG images used to be like. Story 131. Instant messaging notifications. Chat rooms. Internet relay chat and file transfer protocol to get games and songs loaded with viruses. Good times. Story 132. A 5-minute wait to slowly see a flower unfold, only to be bombarded with pop-up advertisements before you got to the good part. Story 133. Uncensored YouTube without advertisements, promotions, subscriptions, or censorship. Back when YouTube was fun, adventurous, and kind of weird. Seriously, I watch early years YouTube for nostalgia. Story 134. All these people talking about YouTube. My first modem was 14.4 kilobits per second. There was no YouTube, no MySpace, no Facebook. You shared your internet chat query with your friends in real life and found each other online. You used Yahoo or AltaVista to search for things. Then there were web crawlers that would pull the searches from multiple sites. Internet relay chat for chat and file sharing. Sometimes you would even open Hyperterminal and dial into a friend's computer to chat or share files. Even a bulletin board system if you could find a good toll-free one, because anything else would count as a long-distance phone call and got very expensive. I miss the decentralized feel of the early internet. No Google. If you wanted something unique, you had to really dig. Now, literally anything you can think of, just type it into Google and you have it. Of course, more recently you have to go past a bunch of ads and artificial intelligence content. It was like walking into a huge city with all kinds of alcoves, alleyways, corners, and special little places designed for specific information or activities. Just getting where you wanted was an adventure in itself. Story 135. Personal web pages. Everyone had simple 1 to 5 page websites about things they liked. Mine was an introduction to my page and my quirky personality. There was a page about Pimpbot 5000 from Conan, something about they might be giants, and a page about my brother and our inside jokes. The closest thing we have today are YouTubers who share openly about themselves without a filter. Story 136. The excitement of plugging in your 400 baud modem on your Commodore 64 and being able to type words to a total stranger who types back to you using this brand new service called America Online. Story 137. Having all your activity moderated by America Online. Being rude could result in your whole family being banned until an angry parent called in. Then they would read all the inappropriate messages you sent over the phone to your parents. Imagine what kind of job that must have been. Then your mom would come in and ask, "Why did you message Chode Gargler 6955 times, telling him to go suck an egg?" I don't know. I'm 13 and I learned that I could and thought nobody could stop me. Stop interfering in my messages. Waffle Stomp 420 just signed on. I have to send him 42 messages. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.